Let's move on though to group chat, our big talk of the week, which once again is going to be about Donald Trump, but which is I feel like going to happen quite a lot over the next several years.
Hopefully,
until I get fired, presumably.
hopefully with more Arnold Schwarzenegger though in the coming
Yes.
weeks. That would make me happy.
Yeah. So I really did this week want to get away from it, but there's just no avoiding it.
I know. I did want to, when I proposed it to you as a topic, I was like, I'm not feeling it, but we kind of have to.
We have to. So this last weekend,
Yes.
Donald Trump signed an executive order barring new refugees from the country and shutting down, at least temporarily, immigration from seven majority Muslim nations. We're not going to talk about that as a broader topic. I think people probably have an inkling as to what our personal opinions are about it. But I did want to talk about the tech industry's reaction to it. So one of the first to come out against it, though, was Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg, correct?
Yeah, in a decidedly more neutral way than a lot of other companies. I think Sundar Pichai from Google came out, or at least was reported to have sent a memo to his employees asking them to come back as soon as possible. And Lyft's donation to the ACLU came pretty quickly. It wasn't one of the first, but it was definitely a strong stance versus what Zuckerberg said, which was, I don't remember the exact words, but I remember they were very neutral sounding.
So I have Zuckerberg's statement in front of me.
Okay.
And he definitely wasn't as aggressive as some others, but he also was pretty transparent about what his opinion was, and I think made it personal in a way that I think is relatively effective. I'll just read the opening part of it. I won't, because it's a very long statement. Well, not very long, but relatively long statement. But he leads off by talking about how his great-grandparents came from Germany and Austria and Poland, and that Priscilla's parents, his wife, were refugees from China and Vietnam, and talking about how the United States is a nation of immigrants and we should be proud and all of this stuff. So he personalizes it and humanizes it, which is nice. But he does stop a little bit shy of some of the other companies.
Whereas, I think Tim Cook has wondered aloud in interviews if there's room for legal action, which is a much stronger stance. But I think we should backtrack a bit just to underscore for people why this is actually a tech issue.
Yeah.
And not just a straight up political story.
Well, as someone who feels very impacted by all of this, I consider myself someone who works in the tech industry, and I'm a visa holder. So for, one of the things that I was reading over the weekend that really frightened me was that, people from those 7 countries at the moment who had H-1B visas that's similar to the visa I'm holding basically weren't being allowed through the borders at all. Whereas green card holders, whom you would think decidedly were more safe, right? It was just unclear if they were going to be able to let go through at all. So that to me, and to many other workers in tech like myself, that's a huge concern. And not just the people who are visa holders, but your coworkers and you guys, right? You would be affected too if I was held at the border, you wouldn't have any reviews you would have fewer reviews to edit.
And, you take a bigger company like Apple, really had to scramble over the weekend to look after hundreds, in some cases, of employees who were abroad. And, their ability to come back was sort of in jeopardy.
Yeah.
Well, that's sort of the thing, I think, is the tech industry is heavily reliant on immigrants, more so than a lot of other industries. And a lot of that has to do with America's failing to train enough engineers and computer scientists and stuff like that. And so we need to import people to do those jobs. And then the other part is that it's an industry that is very global.
Yeah.
And, requires a lot of traveling and moving people about from country to country, and this kind of throws a wrench in things, right?
Yeah, and the nature of the internet, like you said, it's global. It's you can't avoid the fact that you're going to have to work with people from every country, and I don't see how shutting down your borders or preventing people from other countries from working in your country is going to help you internationally with your relationships with other countries at all. One of the things that came out early this week was rumors that another immigration order or bill was being considered that would increase the minimum wage of the H-1B visa, which, again, the tech industry is heavily reliant on, to a minimum of about 100,000 or 130,000. So there's different bills being passed around. One's from a Congresswoman, Lofgren, and that one's the one that proposes $100,000 as a minimum wage. And that,
What's the minimum currently on the H-1B?
It's prevailing wage for the industry, so that changes depending on the year, and it's closer to 60,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what this is looking to do, what this bill would be looking to do then, is set like just a hard baseline. For
Right, and in Sherlyn's case, she would be held to the same standard as a software developer, and which isn't fair because software developers, as many of you might imagine, make more money than us news people.
Yeah. And this also kind of limits it to companies that are able to afford to pay people that much, right? So smaller startups who can't afford that much probably can hire anyone on an H-1B, which is unfortunate because, it's not that Americans can't do the job altogether, but for me, I've studied computer science since I was, 12, 13, like in school. That's just because Singapore loves computers for some reason. And
For some reason, they're okay.
Yeah, they're all right.
All right.
But I've been designing websites. I've learned code since I was basically a child. So, I mean, I'm familiar with all of this stuff. I'm not a full-time programmer. I could be if I wanted to, but I'm not go into that.
Yeah, a little humble brag in there. I could code if I wanted to.
Yeah, but my idea of the American education system, even today, doesn't have that kind of an emphasis on, computer engineering, which is what the industry sorely needs.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that other countries have done a much better job at prioritizing and training people to do. I mean, I think you're starting to see America slowly coming around about how important STEM education is, but we're a little bit late to the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's the issue is that we just don't have the people to fill these jobs. It's as much as the rhetoric might be about how it's immigrants coming and taking American jobs, but that's just not really how it works as a general rule.
And I mean, there's obviously calls for training, right, to impart skills to people who might want these jobs, but that takes time. And meanwhile, you need people to fill these jobs, or you're going to fall behind other countries. There's plenty of other countries other than the ones that immediately spring to mind that are, that are going to take over really quickly in terms of cyber competition anyway. Yeah,
and I mean, and the other thing to think about there is, often these jobs are concentrated in certain areas. Obviously, a lot of the software development jobs, a lot of these coding jobs are all focused in the Bay Area or they're focused in New York, and getting somebody to move there is also problematic.
True.
Like, if you were born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio, you might not want to leave Cincinnati, Ohio just to take a coding job. Whereas if you're somebody looking to move to America, you probably don't care. It's like, I'm taking a job no matter where it is.
Right. Like, I don't care where I live, really. I don't really care. I mean, New York's fine.
New York's all right.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's all right.
Lies, it's the best. It's the best.
Okay.
You're with two native New Yorkers here.
I consider myself a New Yorker. There we go. Hey.
Yeah, but you're not native.
I'm not native. I don't care. Yeah.
You don't have his sweet Staten Island accent.
Thank God.
Which I did not know was a thing, by the way, that I had this.
I don't hear it either, but that's because I'm deaf in one ear now.
It's the way he says Staten Island, ironically.
I mean, that for sure. There's certain words. There's Staten Island.
Okay.
Because it turns into a single word.
There we go. The Staten Island Ferry? I don't know, whatever.
We are getting way off topic.
Yeah, we are. We're trying to, actually, it seems like. But, I mean, one last thing I will say is that, like, this already has a lot of immediate impact on certain countries, right? Just the proposed bill itself caused, like, the Indian IT industry to almost like to just suffer completely. Like some of the big, so the reason the Indian IT industry is kind of concerned here is because a lot of these H-1B visas go to Indian IT workers, and it's about 70% of H-1B visas, and these are going to specific companies like big consultancy companies like Tata, which is a huge Indian company, Infosys. And so once that news spread that it was probably going to be harder for them to get those visas, their collective market value tumbled $7 billion over in India. And that's just crazy. That's huge losses. Out of nowhere. That's just, and the Indian government apparently, their Ministry of Foreign Affairs has apparently said something to the Trump administration that they are concerned about this. I don't know that that's a strong enough stance, but at least they've said something. And I hope and expect more countries to come forward. I think Angela Merkel has said something strongly about this, but more about the refugee ban than anything else.
We're just making enemies everywhere.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, might be a good idea for me to consider not trying so hard to stick around. I don't know.
No, we want you here.
Yeah.
I want to be here too.
You just have to be careful about what you say now.
I do. Can we get to that though? I've been watching what I tweet.
Have you?
I have. I've been trying to be more sensitive. I think Dana mentioned this earlier or yesterday actually, that it kind of feels wrong.
So we came in on Monday after this weekend of nonstop news, and people are making small talk. How was your weekend? I felt like I spent my whole weekend on Twitter, not even tweeting and retweeting the whole time, though I was, but just that was my main news source.
Yeah.
And I found it really hard to step away, because what if I step away and go to sleep and news breaks overnight and I miss it?
I had a similar experience, yeah.
I've been staying up later each night. I have been doing less unwinding. I've been having more screen time. And so, and a lot have been on Twitter, actually. And we could talk about the reasons that Twitter seems really well suited.
Yeah.
It does seem ironic, though, right? Because Twitter is a company that has struggled to find its identity and find out how to make money off itself. And I still don't know the answer to that last part, but this is Twitter at its best. I think when people flock to it and at its most useful and most critical, where people flock to it and stick with it for hours because they see it as a primary news source, right?
Yeah.
How does Twitter take advantage of that and turn that into a business model?
I think Twitter needs to understand its user base really well, because this is an issue that really struck a chord with the people that use Twitter, people who are techie, people who are younger, whether you're leftist or rightist, there's a lot of them on Twitter, and this issue really resonated with a lot of them. And immediately you have, the hashtag method of collecting, the news around this topic that really, I think, helped them a lot. And if Twitter understands how people are using it a bit more, they could strengthen their product. Hate that word, but hate the word product.
I mean, it's almost as bad as content.
It's almost as bad as content, yes.
I like you, Dana, have found myself kind of glued to Twitter more and more over the last several months. You, however, were saying yesterday that it's actually changed the way you use it.
Yeah, so at least in the past few days, I've started to feel, if I feel that I post too many non-political things at once or in a day, whatever that means, I start to feel guilty. So it's...
So you feel like you're not allowed to talk about things that aren't politics?
I worry that if I tweet too much about lighthearted stuff at a time like this, that I come off looking tone deaf, or like I am not ambivalent. What's the word I'm looking for?
Not insensitive.
Complacent, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Complacent about what's going on, not worried. And I'm also, everyone's Twitter feeds are different, right? We all follow different people and have different people visible to us, but it does to an extent feel like we are all in a big room together where the tone is largely the same. And if everyone else is tweeting about politics, I think as humans we want to behave in a normative way and behave in a way that mirrors how our peers are behaving. So if other people are mostly tweeting nonstop about politics, I feel tempted even without thinking about it, to follow suit. And when I do tweet about stuff that's silly, which I normally would have, I feel weird. I'm like, do I look out of place and insensitive doing this?
I also, so that literally happened to me where I spent most of the weekend not paying attention to the news because it was Chinese New Year. And I was just calling my parents from here all the time. So when I really found out what happened was around Sunday, late afternoon. And before that, I had posted a series of silly selfies and Chinese New Year related stuff that seemed very tone deaf. And that's when I kind of looked back and was like, holy crap, all this has been going on and I've been here posting selfies. And that really upset me, so I immediately had to say something.
Because I think we're all our own worst critics in that sense. I would have put 2 and 2 together and said, Chinese New Year is important to Sherlyn and she's celebrating it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought any more about it. But I think in that sense, we're all our worst critics of who we are on and off line.
Yeah.
I obsessively checked the timestamp of my selfie, and I was like, oh my gosh, when did the news break and when did I post this? And do I look like I was reacting to it? It's just bad for me.
But it's stressful. I mean, the news cycle right now is stressful enough, and the added stress of constantly curating your online persona on top of that is just enough to make someone want to take a social media break.
Which I tried to do.
Which is probably a healthy thing.
Yeah.
I more or less did that this weekend. I'm not going to lie. It was nice. It was good.
That's good.
It's good
Then
break.
you woke up to the horrors that unfolded.
Yeah.
Okay.
I spent most of Saturday not on the internet and then avoided it for most of Sunday as well.
But I feel like silence almost, I mean, it's something that's your right, and taking that break is, something you should do. But, remember how people were calling out Lin-Manuel for
Lin-Manuel
not saying
Miranda,
anything. Yeah. So, I mean, people still expect public figures
the guy who called him out for that, though, is just a jerk.
I said
for those
Dirk.
at home, Lin-Manuel Miranda, the creator of the show Hamilton, which celebrates diversity.
Yeah, somebody called him out for not saying anything on Twitter.
Said something like, it speaks volumes that
Your
you're not
silence?
hearing.
Yeah, dude.
And it was a New York Times columnist.
It was.
I thought that was inappropriate
Saturday,
on multiple levels.
Yeah.
It was a Saturday. I was with my family. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was inappropriate on a couple levels, right? I think a New York Times columnist should not be crossing that line, going that far. And I think Lin-Manuel Miranda in particular, I think people are right to wonder what he's thinking or saying, but I also don't think he has as much to prove.
Yeah, I mean, he's under no obligation.
Yep.
If he wants to remain silent, that's his right.
But I did understand why some people were eager to hear Sheryl Sandberg from Facebook say something about the Women's March a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, well, she is under more of an obligation, though, I feel like as a person
who does business with Peter Thiel.
Yeah. There's...
And as a woman who other women look up to.
Yep. These are all, obvious areas where she has an impact, she has import, she has influence. It's not just about her personal opinion as a human, it's about what her position says about the position of Facebook as a company. It's about, and to an extent, she has, the ear of people in the orbit of Donald Trump. This is the sort of thing, her opinion matters more than Lin-Manuel Miranda.
I think that when people in positions of power speak out, that's, that has more weight to, people like Donald Trump or people in his administration who have to take that opinion or point of view more seriously because it comes from someone like Sheryl Sandberg or everyone that signed the Tech NYC immigration disagreement. I forget what it's called. Petition? Yeah, so I think there are certain people where they should, and they're not obligated to.
That's not us.
That's not you and I. We should not feel like I kind of.
We're probably not going to get called out for being silent.
No one.
For a period.
Yeah, no one's waiting.
Nobody cares.
Excitedly for me to say I do not like this. I oppose this. But I mean, though, if anyone else did feel like they would want to say it, I say go for it. I mean, the more people that speak out against it, the better, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing I was thinking about while you guys were talking is you were saying that you feel bad about tweeting all of this stuff that's not political.
And then, Facebook is a whole other story because
Oh, God.
most of my political activity is on Twitter, and I think there are a couple of reasons for that, right? My following on Twitter is about more than 10 times as big as on Facebook and includes a more diverse range of people, whereas in Facebook, to me, is a tiny little echo chamber.
Another little humble brag there, guys. Dana's got lots of Twitter
10
followers.
times.
Or I just don't have many Facebook friends anymore.
Anymore.
Yeah, Facebook feels like a small echo chamber, and I think Facebook was designed with less built-in tolerance for repeat manic posting, right?
Yeah.
So I could retweet 3 things in 5 minutes on Twitter, and that won't look weird, and it probably won't annoy people. It would on Facebook. So Facebook, in the first place, I feel that I need to be more selective. And the first thing I've cut on Facebook most of the time are news links, because oftentimes I have tons of other people in that same feed sharing the same links, right? So it just becomes information overload. Yeah, and I think in general, for other reasons, I post less on Facebook now. But what all that means is that as active as and vocal as I've been on Twitter, I look pretty damn silent on Facebook. So when I did post on Saturday night about a comedy show I went to, I immediately felt guilt. Like, this is the first thing I've posted about here on Days. In Days is this comedy show I went to. I regretted it afterwards. I think I probably looked pretty tone deaf, even though I know I'm very active on this other social network that I still believe is more conducive to political discourse than Facebook ever was.
I feel like Facebook's more personal, and that's the same. I mean, you even liked that status I posted after everything that I realized happened, and I felt like I had to explain myself on Facebook. Just be like, yeah, the reason I've been silent is because I only noticed it on Sunday afternoon. I'm not, oblivious to all of this. But you were saying something.
I've forgotten by now.
Something about...
When it's other people, I take some comfort in seeing happy moments from other people's lives. So, I mean, please do keep posting, if not Chinese New Year, your pets, your vacations with your kids.
Food, how about food pictures?
Food photos are cool, too.
Just keep reposting the Arthur theme as performed by Chance the Rapper, John Baptiste, and Ziggy Marley. It's good times. It just makes
whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, I mean that's how I've made my week more tolerable. Is I've just played that on loop.
I've just been looking at cute puppies on Instagram.
Also a good one.
Nonstop. It's the
I
only
just look
way.
at my dog and my cats and then just go, "You're adorable. You're good."
Good for you. Good for you.
It's like having my own Instagram feed in my home.
What do you look at, Dana? Pictures of running. Pictures of people
she just
running.
looks at marathoners. That's
Actually, home decorating porn is kind of my jam right now. And so is HGTV. So while I'm on Twitter obsessively staying up, I have HGTV on in the background in a very poor attempt to keep me calm.
If it helps, I watched Shark Tank to take my mind off it, and then I was reminded why America is kind of cool sometimes.
because of Shark Tank.
Shh, you got the American Dream.
Sure, okay.
It's over and over again.
I've literally never watched the show,
okay.
so.
I watch anything that's business related on reality TV.
Shark Tank, isn't that from Mark Burnett, the same guy who probably has tapes of Trump that he never released?
Oh, the guy that released that other, or the one that was recording that other tape that was about grabbing.
Yeah.
Yeah. He probably does.
I like that you censored yourself there, as if like you're usually demure and wouldn't
People
say it.
don't know me like you guys do. No, everyone does.
Yeah.
Everyone knows I'm crass. But again, another thing about Twitter though is that later in the week it surfaced that the Trump administration or something was considering making your social media information part of the information you have to disclose at the border, and that to me was one of the reasons I started censoring myself on Twitter as well.
Which is a shame because I mean, really, your First Amendment rights
is
allow
the most
you
American.
to post about cats and whatever you post about on Twitter.
Yeah, but I also now I'm so careful to look at whether I'm posting anything that looks un-American. I'm like, oh, what if I share this thing about China?
I mean, none of us are going to go on Twitter and say we think Donald Trump should be shot.
Right.
You can't do that.
No one.
But,
I'm not doing that.
I may have suggested I play in traffic at some point.
And even that, I mean, I think there's a discussion there about how far can you go and still be in your First Amendment rights on public social media.
To be clear, this was before he was president, so leave me alone.
But I mean, barring even gray area stuff like that, right. the border agent should not be looking at
Yeah.
using that as a criterion for letting you into.
That's just strange. But I was like, let's post more America things. So y'all will be seeing all of that.
You're just going to post photos of American flags for the
Yeah,
next,
or-
every hour on the hour for the next
Yeah,
4 years.
barbecues
Yeah.
and American flag.
I'm going to get you a cowboy hat.
Yeah, I probably have one of those.
You probably have one already.
I also have American flag leggings. They're beautiful. I will be wearing them indefinitely to work.
We need to have another podcast discussion that's actually an intervention about Sherlynn's online shopping habit. And you.
What do I need an intervention for?
You showed up to work the other day forgetting that you had signed up for a Sierra Club membership.
Oh, yeah. This is, yeah.
He mentioned the Sierra Club before, but
yeah,
he impulse bought a Sierra Club membership and forgot about it.
Well, I impulse donated to them and got a
Okay.
membership
Oh,
card.
yeah, that's what you just said. Okay.
And I was like, I don't remember
well, we
doing
also need an
this.
intervention for V. So it could be a whole intervention episode.
Yeah,
where
and also I don't think I need an intervention
think
for
you
like
do.
making small donations to people. Like that's fine.
It's just, it's just funny that some of us have an online shopping habit where we wake up the next morning and are like, oh, I have a cast iron skillet now. And you're like, oh, I have a Sierra Club membership.
Yeah.
that's a silly thing to impulse buy.
It's-
Yeah.
I like our environment. I
I
like
mean,
our
no, that's
parks.
that's what my boxes from Amazon contain. Yeah.
Cast iron skillets.
Yes.
It's part of your New Year's resolution. I support it.
More frittatas.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's a
It's
solid
good
place
way
to end the
end.
episode.
Yeah, more frittatas.
Sherlyn, you have anything to add? Any last thoughts before we go?
I will be no, I can't.
No. Okay.
I can't.
Where can fine people find you on the interwebs?
If you're the Border Patrol,
Nowhere.
I don't care. No, at Sherlyn Lowe on Twitter. I don't care. They can have it.
Dana?
I am Dana Wollman on Twitter.
I am at Terrence O'Brien, lots of E's, no A's. Just wanted to throw back real quick. If you haven't donated to the ACLU, you should do so because they can always use more money. So that's always a nice thing to do. And, tax season is coming up, so, you can write off that stuff. It might be a little bit too late
you
for this
can't.
year.
Not for this year.
ACLU is not tax deductible.
It's not?
No.
Oh, all
Yeah,
right.
I've tried to do that in previous.
It doesn't. I mean, if you believe in the cause, you should still donate. Just don't donate because you think you'll get a tax benefit.
I was unaware that they are not tax deductible. I'm
I
believe it's
thought
not.
they were when I first signed up, but maybe it's changed. Also,
I'm
I first signed up
while
too
we're
long ago.
while we're on this, I'm gonna find out ACLU
Tax deductible.
Tax deductible.
It's a very good way to end the podcast.
Wouldn't it be funny if I just gave you an
Gifts
alternative?
to the ACLU Foundation are fully tax deductible to the donor.
All right.
Boom.
Well, for more
Fake
alternative
news
facts, you
woman.
can find me at Dana Wollman on Twitter.
I prefer alternative snacks, but
I do too.
I like that.
yeah. Where were we going?
We
we were
were
ending the
ending
show.
it, yes.
So yeah, go donate to the ACLU. It's a great cause. They can use your money. Obviously, also subscribe to our show on iTunes or whatever your
We
podcast
could
app
also
of
use
choice.
your
We could
ratings.
use your listenership and your reviews and ratings and all of that stuff. If you have questions, feedback, comments, all of that stuff. If you just want to send me hate mail,
Tell us about your favorite alternative snacks.
yes, tell us about your favorite alternative
And
snacks.
Dana will
please.
make them.
Hashtag alternative snacks.
Yeah.
You can hit us up at Engadget Podcast on Twitter. You can also email us to podcast@engadget.com. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to tune in next week. But before we go, I want to leave you with the comment of the week, which comes from Tech Guy 25, who says simply, "Wow, that's sad."